when I put my feet on the floorboards, there was already water almost up to my knees, and the water was just rushing in from between the companionway ladder steps.
Hi everyone, Mia here. I'm in Antigua on Falcon, getting ready to sail up to Bermuda next week. We just got an opening on the next leg, Bermuda to Annapolis, due to a last-minute cancellation, so we're hoping that we can find someone who would like to join us. The passage starts on June 4th in Bermuda and ends on June 12th in Annapolis. If you would like to join us, go to 59-north.com/sign-up and fill out the application. Or you can send us an email to holdfast@59-north.com if you have any questions. So I hope I get to see you in Bermuda. Hey do!
Ahoy shipmates, welcome back to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm Andy Schell. I'm back in the US of A. It's Friday, May 19th as I record this. Really nice to be back. I won't be back in Sweden until the middle of August. I've got 6 weeks here seeing friends and family. Mia arrives in 2 weeks after her next passage to Bermuda. And then I get to go sailing starting July 1st. I'm going from Annapolis up to Lunenburg, my all-time favorite harbor, then on up to St. John's, Newfoundland, and across the Atlantic via Greenland to Isafjordur, Iceland, to see some old friends up there that we first met in the 2018 Svalbard season. So very exciting about that. This is a very exciting episode today with Tapio Lehtinen. Tapio's been on the show before, and if you're not familiar with him, he's the Finnish sailor that has done the Whitbread race back in '87, I think, and then was readying his boat to do the round the world Golden Globe single-handed race, and probably was, if not the one of the most prepared entrants in the race. And it didn't matter because by the time just after he got clear of South Africa, his boat sank in fair weather in sort of mysterious circumstances. And his race was over. He was rescued, and his race was over. Interestingly, though, his offshore campaign is not over because he basically he got rescued and went back to Finland. He charged ahead with his plans for the OGR race, which starts this September, the round the world crude race. He's sailing on a Swan 55 in that race, and so we talked a lot in this interview about what were the emotions surrounding his rescue and how did that affect any of his plans for the OGR. Tapio is very philosophical, so we got pretty deep on some of this stuff. And it was just a really interesting look at preparation and expectations and all the rest, because no matter how prepared you are, there is still a certain risk to going offshore. And Tapio was both stunned and saddened by the sinking of his boat, because he thought he had done everything he could, and yet here he was, and now his boat's at the bottom of the ocean. So, but you can't really dampen his spirits. He pretty immediately moved on to the OGR race, which I think he said he was more excited about than the GGR. So really fun interview, this one. I'm going to catch up with Tapio again, I hope, before the OGR starts. I'm hoping to get down to England and see him and the rest of the competitors before the start of the race. Speaking of preparation, we have our annual seamanship workshop coming up in Annapolis this fall, October 11, 12, and 13. And we've got special guests attending for the whole week, including Brady and Blue, formerly of SV Delos, now of Cruisers Academy. They're going to come and help us teach you about seamanship and spread the love of sailing.
We're basically just trying to get people into the sailing and cruising lifestyle and make it more accessible. So people that have never been on boats before or people that have already crossed oceans, it's just trying to spread the love of sailing through the school side. And then the big purpose, what Blue just mentioned, is the therapy sailing too.
You can join us, Brady and Blue, special guest Nigel Calder, Hulken from the Stormweather Shanty Choir, and Meg Riley from the Magenta Project, as well as others yet to be announced. You can join us for 3 days, or 2 days, or 1 day. Pick whatever day works for you and whatever you want to get out of it. Go to 59-north.com/seamanship to book your tickets. And also, anyone who books any of the days gets a free ticket to our Thursday night Sailors Social, where all of us and special guests are going to be in attendance. Or if you don't want to come or can't make any of the daily events, you can just come to the social. That's available as its own event. Right on the homepage at 59-north.com, you can sign up for that or see details at 59-north.com/seamanship. We will see you in October. On the Wind is presented by our longtime friends and sponsor Forbes Horton Yachts. Forbes can buy you your dream boat, can sell your current boat, the two happiest days in a boat owner's life, buying your boat and selling your boat. He can help with all that, whether or not he's listing the boats or not. You find your dream boat somewhere else, hire Forbes to be your buyer's broker. Actually, you don't even need to hire him. He just splits the commission with the selling broker. Works very happily like that. You can check out his listings if you're interested at Forbes Yachts. I'm going to steal August's phonetic spelling. It's Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Bravo, Echo, Sierra. That's ForbesYachts.com. I'm excited to see Forbes when I go back to Annapolis, and one of the things I've wanted to do for a long time, we're going to have to make this happen, is August and I love doing these boat shopping podcasts, and I would love to go on Forbes' website and do our little boat shopping about some of the listings he has. But that's kind of beside the point. But anyway, if you want to see Forbes' listings and get a preview of maybe a potential podcast idea in the future, again, go to ForbesYachts.com. That's FORBES, ForbesYachts.com. Thanks to Forbes for sponsoring the show. On the Wind is also presented by Dive Blue, who make portable tankless scuba dive systems. We have one on each of our boats, in fact. Enjoy diving on your own terms with a Blue tankless dive system. What is tankless diving exactly? We like to think of it as innovation. Blue's tankless diving system gives divers an opportunity to experience the beauty of the underwater world without the constant worry of having heavy scuba tanks on hand. They carry two types of tankless dive systems, the Nemo system for tankless diving up to 10 feet, and the Nomad system, which is what we have on Falcon and Eastbjorn, for depths up to 30 feet. For us, it's not just about having fun. It allows us to clean the bottom of the boats, fix a wrapped prop, or otherwise inspect the keel and things that you used to have to do either with heavy scuba equipment or by taking a bunch of free dive breaths. And this is basically now a critical tool on both of our boats in our maintenance toolkit. So anybody that's a sailor that's doing your own stuff out there, I highly recommend one of these systems. The amount of money we've spent on divers over the years to clean the hull before a big passage would easily pay for a tankless scuba dive system. So check out the Nemo and Nomad dive systems at diveblue.com. That's DIVE BLU and then the number 3.com. Thanks again to Dive Blue for sponsoring the podcast. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Legendary Finnish sailor Tapio Lehtinen returns to On the Wind for the second time. He and I sit down to talk about the recent sinking of his boat in the Golden Globe single-handed race and what, if anything, he learned from that he's going to apply to the Ocean Globe race crewed adventure that he's about to embark on in September. Tapio is a very philosophical sailor, and he and I share a lot of the same dreams and inspirations, and it's always fun to sit down with Tapio, and I hope to see him again before they embark on the OGR race, and you know for sure that I will be rooting for him. Follow Tapio's exploits at tapiolehtinen.sailing.fi. Cool. Well, let's get right into it. I'm recording on my end as well, Tapio. First of all, sorry that I couldn't make it there in person again, but we'll make do with this. One of these days, I'm going to get to meet you, and hopefully at the OGR start. Actually, I'm planning on being there.
Well, how about Gotland Rund in the summer? Will you be doing that?
Not this year. We're doing it next year on Spica. This year, I'm going to be sailing Falcon across the Atlantic via Greenland this summer. So
okay,
that'll be fun. That's where Mia is now. Mia's on Falcon on the trade wind route headed to Antigua.
Okay, well, you're a busy couple.
We are indeed. Yeah, it's a busy year this year, but it's good. All right, let's get right into this. Obviously, everybody wants to know about your Golden Globe experience before we get to the OGR. What do you think happened? Give me the quick summary. What happened? Your boat sank, and what do you think happened? And how did it feel? Like, what were you feeling like in that moment?
Well, yeah, I woke up in a sunny morning, 18th of November, around 7 o'clock, to a loud crash which came from the stern of the boat. And by the time I had got up from my bunk below the safety net, and it took me 20-30 seconds. When I put my feet on the floorboards, there was already water almost up to my knees. And the water was just rushing in from between the companionway ladder steps above the engine room. And so it was a pretty abrupt waking up, and also waking up to the reality that I understood that the boat it will be rapidly sinking. So I rushed to the companionway where my grab bags are, and put out my survival suit bag and my emergency radio box into the cockpit. And by the time I was trying to unstrap the grab bags, and the water level was already up to my waist, and the grab bags were below water level, and I just couldn't open them. So I went up on deck to be sure that I can get the life raft launched. And so I put my survival suit on and launched the life raft, and put the radios into the raft, and cut the tether or the lanyard to holding the life raft to the boat with a knife, and tied it with a slip knot to a stanchion, and then had one last look inside the boat, and the water level was about 15-20 centimeters, less than 10 inches down from deck level. So the saloon was completely filled with water, but the boat was still floating due to the watertight bulkheads both in the bow and in stern. And then when I looked back there, I realized that my slip knot had opened, and the raft was drifting away already maybe 3-4 meters from the boat. So I just made a tiger leap towards the raft and made it up to the raft, and it was a pretty close call. And then when in the raft, I put the paddle together and started paddling back towards the boat, but I just couldn't make it. The wind was pushing me away, and with the balancing bags, they have this kind of IKEA bags in the corners of the raft, so it was impossible to get the raft moving. So the only thing to do was to follow the boat slowly, filling up with water, and within about 20 minutes, the stern went below the water surface, and then the boat then sank stern first. So I stood up in the small raft and gave a last salute to my dear friend. It was a pretty emotional moment. And then
when did it? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So there was no possibility for me to try to kind of investigate that where exactly the water was coming from, and not to speak of that what had caused it. During the 5-6 minutes of me waking up and then ending up in the life raft, there was no. It was pretty kind of step by step systematic action, and I never had time, or it didn't even come to my mind that I should have looked around if I would have seen a container or a whale or something, but I didn't notice anything on the water surface.
What do you think happened? You must go through this in your head.
Well, my first thing which I was thinking in the raft was that a through hull fitting would have given in the stern of the boat. I had closed all the deck openings during the refit, and moved all the through hull fittings to the stern of the boat, placed between two watertight bulkheads, with the idea that if something would go wrong, I would just have one compartment filled with water and then possibility to fix it. But then pretty soon it was clear that the water ingress was so rapid that it couldn't have been caused with just one one through hull fitting failing, and also it was not probable that even that the compartment would have been filled with water, and there was this kind of free surface, or would have been a free surface slushing back and forth, but it wouldn't have created such a force which would have broken the watertight bulkhead, because it was made of pretty strong plywood and laminated around the whole hull and the deck on both sides. So that could be counted out. And then after coming to Finland, I got tens of messages, both from sailors in Finland and all over the world, suggesting different kinds of theories and explanations what would have happened. And well, President Zelensky was visiting Finland 2 days ago, and and I had flown a Ukrainian flag under my spreader during the whole season and race. So a Russian submarine was one of the theories, but but maybe they don't consider me that important or dangerous enemy anyway.
I had to, I mean, count myself in one of the theorists, because when I first saw the news it happened and the way you described it sinking from the stern, my thought was, could the prop shaft have pulled out the back of the boat somehow?
Yeah, well, that was one of the many theories, both the prop shaft or the rudder shaft, but still the opening would not have been big enough to fill the boat that rapidly. Someone told me that you could have cooked potatoes, and I still had good time to see that what was the problem. And also because there's a propeller aperture in the rudder, so it's not possible because the rudder was aligned into the center, so the prop shaft could not have dropped out of the boat.
Sure,
And then,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then my life raft was stored in the cockpit under the tiller on its side, and so in order to get the life raft into the water, I had to lift up the tiller and push it to the side, and it was operating normally. So I don't think that there was anything wrong with the rudder either, and both the rudder shaft and the propeller shaft were behind a watertight bulkhead, so even they would have given in, there wouldn't have been such a big rush of water into the saloon. And then after coming to Finland, I organized a meeting with three of my very good friends who all are naval architects by schooling. Kamu Strollman they all